Okay. I'm not even sure how to start this off. It's actually taken me a lot to come to terms with the truth that this that's happening at this store is not all in my head. I need to give an introduction or a prelude, if you will, or an intro of who I am, or at least who I've been told that I am, but who I've learned who I am, in addition to my experiences and what I have memory of, not what other people have projected onto me or try to convince me is my truth. Because a lot of that happens when you grow up in narcissistic abuse, in toxic homes, villages, communities, and it gets worse. It's a molding process, it seems, and what I've learned in my healing frequency and what I don't need to provide evidence of, because if you've lived in this country, you know that it's the truth. That oppression is real, discrimination is real, racism is real, hate is real, but so is love. And love seems to be what is missing now. I don't care about I have no judgment over who believes in what or what you don't believe in. The only thing I have judgment over is myself. Now, I grew up in a world where everybody judged me and discriminated against me because early on, I didn't just go with what they said I should believe in, because in the world I lived in the homes that I grew up in the wars that have taken over our streets, they started from home. Whether anyone wants to admit that or not. Because somebody a long time ago decided that they needed to exert their ego in order to not just rule, but control the world. It's the whole Pinky and the Brain syndrome. I always used to say that I was the brain, but I liked Pinky because Pinky was needed, because in that cartoon or that whatever, the brain, because he was so brainy, he was perceived to be quite mean. And Pinky brought love and silliness into the reality. I grew up in environments where everybody fought about what you're supposed to believe in, who you're supposed to believe in, how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to say, the money. They use education as forms to control vehicles. I had a grandmother, Doris. I don't even know if she's my real grandma, to be honest, because there's never been a baby picture. Like baby picture. I've never seen pictures of me when I was born, ever, in any home I ever grew up in. There was a few scattered when I was a little bit older that came along the way. But as far as anything of like a mother holding a child or in the hospital, I've absolutely never seen anything like that for myself. And nobody has ever had one to give to me. And I've asked over and over and over again. My brother, when he would get angry, would say hurtful things, and he would say I was adopted and yada yada yada, but kids say mean things to each other all the time. And everybody joked about either the redheaded stepchild or the adopted, or so I just always figured the stork dropped me in the wrong trash can. Because everybody growing up has handled me as if I am rubbish. I am trash. And I didn't understand why, because I felt like I was fabulous. I was fast. I love to read. I'm an artist. I'm great at what I do. I help heal artists and studios, and I always found a way growing up when you're a latchkey kid and the key doesn't work and you don't really have a home, or you have a home and it's like, but no one's ever home. And even if they are home, you wish they weren't home. Because they were mean. Growing up, I spent a lot of times where my bedroom was closets, porches. I don't really recall, I'm looking for a charger. I don't really recall a time where I really ever had my absolute own room. That I wasn't either sharing or that could be taken from me at any given time. I gotta plug this in. I did not think this through. Hold on. This is the pinky side. Wait, because I have to reshift because my thing doesn't reach and I'm... Okay. Oh. So you have to actually connect it to the phone. Apparently, in order to get the actual juice of the battery to charge the... That's the brain. Okay. All right, I think it's charging. Yes, okay. I apologize. So professional. And listen, you have to forgive the background. My children and I have been through some serious rough patches. I found myself in a series of really bad relationships because I didn't know at the time that I was attracting relationships, whether it be friends, men, colleagues, bosses. I was attracting people like the narcissist that raised me, violated me, the toxic people who felt they could use their position and title to molest or rape me or abuse me in some kind of way and then exploit me. I learned about reactive abuse, and that what happens is especially if you have a covert narcissist or anyone who falls on that spectrum, what they do is they create scenarios to see how other people will respond so that they know how far they can push them, manipulate them, and they also know how to entrap them so that if the person files a charge or a claim against them, then they already have all this evidence of what's either reactive abuse or moral injury. Because, let me give you an example, and I'm going to include this in its entirety, but it's hard because I went into the job here at Walmart. The store number, which I have to tell you, I was talking to somebody in passing. His name was Michael. I don't know his last name, but he was coming in on the day shift and I was leaving the night shift. And he asked me how I was doing, and I told him it's like culture shock. Culture shock, not in the sense of the people, because I have lived around so many cultures, and mostly it was island culture, it was hip-hop culture, it was trailer park culture, it was all the alleys in between, and then there was the rich man's culture at the end, when they got to come in and play hero when they knew I was there the whole time, because they used to send gowns from Saks Fifth Avenue. And I never knew why, because we couldn't eat that, but I could be exploited in those gowns. And then the woman who's supposed to be my mom, named Corey, was able to bring people in and allow them to do things to me. So, when I say culture shock when it comes to Walmart, there's a Walmart connection with my family, and I didn't get to really embrace it early in the late 90s. It was like to the time that I was there, because there was a conflict that took place between my uncle's company called Sawtech in Orlando, Florida, and there was a Walmart supercenter that we knew was coming into development, and I don't mean we as in the community, because you always know in the community when that's about to happen, because everybody starts to talk, because you either have people who are angry or people who are really excited and looking forward to it. But it always comes down to the land when I was growing up, because my grandfather was a farmer and he had land in Rogers, Arkansas, the Midwest, Oklahoma, Joplin, Missouri, which is where I was primarily dumped at a lot of the times. He was my calm between my storms. He taught me to fish. He taught me to walk straight by making me walk on gravel with skates. And I don't even understand what the concept was, but I do know that if I didn't keep my feet straight, I wouldn't have stayed on that gravel. And I don't know if you've ever fallen on gravel in the heat, but that shit hurts and then it sticks to your skin when you get back up. So his lessons were rough, but they were effective. But he was quiet and he was stern, and I never heard that man say a word unless he had to. And when he spoke, the ground shook. And the fighting and the meanness and the noise, it all stopped. My grandfather was like the thunder. And I felt so safe. When I was on his land. Because no one had access to hurt or touch me or to bully me. So when they somehow removed me from whatever, because my granddad told me I was gonna have land, I was always gonna have that calm between the storms. My children, his grandchildren, his great grandchildren were always gonna have a place. And he told me that. That's why he was teaching me the land. And I didn't have many other cousins that would spend time over there like I did, and they would come and go, but it was always for something. Money, food, a place to stay, whatever it was. But it was exactly what my grandfather meant, which was the land and the family. Anyways, I knew that there was arguments with the development of Walmart at the time when I was younger, because my uncle and my aunt were really, really heavy, because I had gotten shipped to Florida in '93 after I had been a series of years where I was raped and molested by different men that Corey would bring in when I was growing up. And no matter my brother and I's efforts to make it stop or to just break free of it, there's not a lot you can do as a kid. And when people around you have already determined that you're a bad kid because you're different, you think different, you think deeper, you're smart, you're funny, people don't like that. People are intimidated by smart, funny, authentic. Because when someone is able to stand in their truth of authenticity, that's what they want to beat out of you or remove from you or absorb from you in order to take that creativity, that light, that spark, and they want to be able to exploit it and use it and package it up and say it was theirs. And then they want to keep producing it, but the only way they can do it is drain it out of a person like that who's a natural born light of God, a child of God. Whatever God looks like to you, that's nobody's business. Whatever God looks like to me, that's nobody's business. What's important is our faith in God, whatever our God is. Not to be controlled by the mindsets and the molding of religion through slavery, that has been manipulated, and it was even explained to me by one of my unofficial foster moms through my upbringing in the Underground Railroad. It's not the theologies that are wrong, she told me. It's the people in those belief systems. I would call them organizations, but she might be offended to that. Because her pearl of love and connection to God is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it is offensive to her when we call them Mormons, and because that is everything for her. So I love and I respect her for that. But then I had this aunt in Florida that used to attack my relationship with her because she used to say she was in a cult. And she would give pamphlets to me, and she'd give them to my brother, and she would send them to my brother. And he would call me and be upset, and he would tell me about it, because I think my brother was more embraced in the church than I ever was. I saw the hypocrisy in all of the churches, so I used to cherry pick what I felt God in is what I was willing to allow to actually reach my heart. Because no matter what religion I was ever around growing up, and a lot of it was African, tribal, Rastafari, old Southern Baptist, like not the white ones, the black ones. And what I learned from all of that was God is right there in your heart. And I even learned it from my aunt, who is in the white side of the Christianity. But it was a weapon that she would always use formed against me, because I was non-compliant to conforming to just one belief, because there's so much division in the execution of religion. And I learned early on, when I had no one else to really rely on to raise me as a good person, a good mom, a good daughter, a good sister, a good woman. And I would be either locked out of any home, couldn't get in, didn't know how to find my way home, because I was bounced around so much that I would get lost a lot. And in those moments when you're a kid and you initially go through the panic of it, right? There's a point where you reach an acceptance. Well, and back then there was no phones, text messages, social media. They either found you or they didn't. They either looked or they didn't. It wasn't, there was no gentle parenting. Like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know. I've tried it, but I think the gentle parenting has gotten me bullied even from my kids. We all grew up together. I was a kid raising kids, and we were just in those homes, just, it used to be fun. And I think my aunt and my family, who controlled the money, which I don't even know what the money was. My uncle said it was his money and he could do what he wants with it. I just, okay. But there was money. There was a lot of money. And people used to have arguments, and it used to surround me, and I didn't understand how it connected to me. I just knew. And maybe it didn't. Maybe it was the issue of having to take care of me. Maybe the fight was nobody wanted to pay the money to take care of me, because
they all did tell me they didn't want me. People didn't want me. So I got bounced around. But they would always say it was me, something. But really, what it was, I was telling. See, now I gotta get tissue. Damn it. Okay, we're not gonna do that. Sorry. It's gross. But we'll lead with it, rock with it, we'll get through it. It'll dry up. Don't judge me. It's just that if I shift, I'm gonna lose focus. And in all those situations, what I learned in all those different cultures and religions or spirituality or walks with God in different ways, what I always was taught was God was in your heart. And what I learned in those moments when my grandfather wasn't there and I couldn't find my way back to his land because I was a kid and I was moved so much that I didn't know how to get back. And he was always yelling at me. I mean, I was loving the teachings of the stars and the dippers and everything. But he was mad because I just never nailed down the North Star. And it was because I used to just get lost in all of the stars because it was so amazing to me. And numbers